drives one in the air. Deep right field. It's got a chance. Grand slam. Way back it might be. It could be. Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win. Holy cow.
The Dingers podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Mitch. I'm here with Kevin, Jeffrey, live from the 1989 Cubs locker room. And we have Ian back joining us again. How are you boys tonight?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Not
doing
bad.
well.
Actually, I'm on the set of Saw 17. So
Yeah,
would you like to play a game?
Not
I
with
think that's
you.
what-
No.
Never with Jeff.
never play a game with Jeffrey.
Let me know if somebody sneaks up behind me with a machete.
Absolutely not.
Live, just think of the viewers that we'd get on that.
That's exactly it. We're letting the view count go super high.
Cubs podcaster murdered on air.
Well, we are inching ever closer to opening day. Next week's episode will be our pick'em episode, which we're super excited. We do every year. A lot of fun. And then next Thursday is, I think that's next Thursday, right? Opening day.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
we-
should be.
And it's
Yep.
weird. This year it's like it's a 6 o'clock game. So like I don't have to like pretend that I'm teaching that day and really I'm watching the Cubs the whole day. I actually can be at home and watch the game in the comfort of my own living room. So excited for opening day and just to get the season going. Last week we had a great discussion, kind of like our key points of what we thought needed to happen for us to exceed the projections that they have out there for the Cubs. And it's kind of like right around 80 to 85 wins is projected. And we kind of had those, but one thing we didn't really talk about was Seiya Suzuki. I don't think his name got brought up once as being a key component. And I'm here to say that I think that Seiya by the end of the year will get some MVP talks if he plays like he did the last 3 months of the season last year. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about Seiya, dig into that. Then we're going to have NL Central talk. We'll break down all the NL Central teams, and then we'll give who out of the NL Central are we maybe most afraid of, and we'll give us a run for our money of taking the NL Central this year. But let's dig into Seiya Suzuki. What's not to love about Seiya Suzuki? I mean, Ian, like that was like I messaged out, hey, we need to talk Seiya, and you're like, yes, definitely, let's talk Seiya Suzuki because the dude is awesome. Where have you seen him grow the most in his development from year 1, year 2, and now we're into year 3 of this contract? And I want to bring up his contract first because he's under a 5-year, $85 million contract. And thinking about that contract now going into year 3, that's a pretty good deal of getting Seiya Suzuki in his production so far. So let's start with Ian. How have you seen him grow and what do you expect out of him this year?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing for growth that I've seen is just consistency, which is weird to say because I'm counting consistency on how he ended last season and how he looks even just in spring training. Like there was no hitch in the step. It's just boom. This is how I ended last season. I ended last season healthy. I ended last season having changed some different approaches. And he continued that. So to me, like that's growth, in the American game at this point now where, maybe he just finally has everything he needs to just be that one consistent player. Scott in the comments, 25 homers and 100 RBIs. Is that too much to expect? I don't actually think so. And based on what I've seen by the end of last season and this spring, I would say maybe 30 homers isn't totally
Everett's going to
unrealistic.
one up you, Scott, and go 30 home runs
Yeah.
and 110
Nice.
RBIs.
Perfect.
There you go, Everett. So yeah, to me, it's consistency, and growing in consistency matters. Like that matters in this sport.
Kevin, what about you? How have you seen him grow? And then what do you expect out of him this year?
I think for me, the thing that was always odd with him was we knew how good of an eye he had. And then he kept getting those weird strike 3 calls that would be like borderline or out of the zone completely, but he wasn't going to take on it at all, which makes sense. Like he wasn't going to swing. He said that seems to have disappeared. He is jumping on a pitch before he gets to that point and just smashing it. He's doing really well. I mean, last year he came into spring training, he was jacked, or what do they call it? They call it yoked. He was yoked up. And that may have affected things. He seemed to got that straightened out. So on top of being flexible, being ready to go, being ready to smash the ball, he seems to be jumping. He seems to be finding his pitch before the pitcher is able to get him out, which is fantastic. Love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about him having a really good eye, and I would say that almost got to a point last year where it became almost a problem, where he wasn't being aggressive and he was taking too many pitches. And you saw the last 3 months, he was way more aggressive. And I mean, his last 2 months, this was a slash line: 349, 406, 667, with 12 home runs, 39 RBIs, and a 183 weighted runs created plus. Like that's some good numbers right there. Think about the last 2 months and he had 12 dingers. I think 30 is definitely there for Seiya to be able to reach. If he's getting 12. 100%. So like that approach changed, and it came after a kind of a stretch there for like a month or two where Seiya really struggled at the plate. He was getting his walks and he was maybe getting on base, but the slug wasn't there. The power wasn't there. The getting hits just wasn't there. He wasn't making good contact. And so that production that you need in the middle of the order just wasn't there for a good portion of the season, especially when we were trying to make our run. And that's where when we got Jamer Candelario filled in, then we kind of gave Seiya a week break. And then he came back with a vengeance. And I think we all remember him missing the catch, right? Like I think, and I really didn't want that to taint what he did for those last 2 months, because Seiya really carried us. Because if you remember, during those last 2 months, Bellinger kind of got really quiet. Like Bellinger wasn't hot like he was in June and July. And so we needed Seiya's bat, because I think he helped push us and get us really back in the playoff push. We just didn't get enough from around him to be able to do that. But like, I'm going to ask Jeff and start out this. Where do you think in our order this year would be the best place to slot Seiya to get the most production out of him and to be able to help our team?
Either the 5 or the 6 hole, I think. I really feel like Bellinger should be hitting cleanup. That's my thoughts. But Seiya's got to be either the 3, the 5, or the 6 hole. Because I feel like we got to have somebody that can hit towards the tail end of that lineup, because it seems like in years past, our 1 through 4 has carried us, and then we've just tailed off really bad in the 5 through 9.
The question out of that, who on the Cubs team are you wanting up to bat in the biggest situations in the game? I mean, a lot of people will say Dansby Swanson.
Score?
Let's say we're down by 1 and bases loaded, and it's like the 7th, 8th inning.
Nico. I mean, for me, like just Nico would be my first.
I mean, at that point, you could have Roger Dorn go step into one. But
Like, and Ian, I get what you say with Nico, but Nico is a contact bat. And
Bases loaded. I mean,
how many outs? How many outs are there?
let's say there's 2 outs.
All right. Well, then that changes a lot of things. Dansby was so frustrating towards the end of last year too. So like, I think I need to see something from him to start the season.
Because my point is in saying that is, I think that Seiya Suzuki takes the best at bats for the Chicago Cubs last year. This year, he works the count. He's going to get his pitch. He isn't going to get fooled a ton of times. And he's the one that's going to drive the ball, and his slug is going to be up there where he's going to get you a couple runs. Like, he's going to drive in the runs, and like, I'm feeling confident he's not going to strike out like Swanson or maybe Bellinger or Morel. He's not going to just hit like a dribbler. Like, he's going to be hit with pop. Like, I think Seiya's the best bat in our order right now.
I think you're right. And I would say this only because, you know, of anyone that you would maybe put in that position. I think the answer is maybe he gives you the best at bat, but he also maybe gives you the best eye. And if you're down by 1, bases loaded, maybe he gives you the best chance to just get on base and take a walk too. Like,
his last 2 months, he dropped his strikeout rate down to 17.4%. Like, that's pretty low when it comes to like major league. Like, usually like sitting around 20. I mean, that's a good like low strikeout.
Yeah. You make a good point. You make a good point there, Mitch.
I think high leverage. Yeah. I mean, at this point, until, you know, it's the same like a running back in the NFL. Like, you go with the hot hand until you're proven wrong. Or if you have a quarterback controversy, it's who's got the hot hand. And I think until the answer, you know, I think at this point now is just all things are Seiya until proven otherwise.
Right.
Here's some other stats. He was in the 91st percentile on chase rate, meaning like he hardly ever chased.
Wow.
And he was in the 84th percentile in exit velocity, average exit velocity.
Dude's good
so
at
like
baseball.
the dude's hitting the ball hard.
Yeah.
He's not chasing. He's not striking out. Like, I'm here to say that I think like I love Cody Bellinger, and I love like we got him on the team, and I love Dansby, Nico. Like, but I think our best bat is Seiya Suzuki, and I'm projecting him this year to take another huge step forward, and he is going to carry the Chicago Cubs this year. Like, you can just see him this year, especially since getting like you have another Japanese player. He's going to feel a little bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You can see like he's just carrying himself a little bit different. Like, I feel like he's feeling a little bit more at home. Like, the relationships are built, like a good clubhouse. Like, everybody is pretty much back. Like, a comfortable Seiya that you're going to see is a very productive Seiya, and we're going to get a lot out of him. I'm super excited to watch him play this year.
I think we're going to see the most healthy Seiya too. Like, far less, you know, I think last year, just the injuries and, you know, little dings here and there, missing time, I think frustrated him so much. He looks like somebody who changed a little bit more about his physicality than just being beefed up. Like, he looks like somebody who actually like, I'm changing now how I'm going to be available to this team. And yeah.
Yeah, so that's our whole point. Like, that's my point of like, we need to talk about him because I think he's gonna do some damage this year in the NL Central. Speaking of NL Central, let's get in. We're gonna do a little team recap of like, or team preview of every single team, and then kind of talk about maybe what team kind of fears us the most. Just some news.
Oof.
Scott Blake Snell signs with the Giants. Okay.
62 mil, 2-year, opt out after the first season.
Man, Boris is taking it in the pants this
Right?
I love it. I love it.
Yep.
Gosh, why would you go to the I don't get that. I don't get that. Why would you go to the NL West? I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to try to compete against the Dodgers.
No, I'm
or
not
the
either.
Padres. The Padres are looking a lot better.
Yeah.
It's weird. Okay, whatever. All right, let's talk. We're not talking about
Jeff.
yeah, we're not talking NL or the West. We're going to talk NL Central. So let's start out with the D-Gens from Upcountry, the Milwaukee Brewers, the reigning NL Central champs.
Yeah, by luck, by some could say it was a small council that they made it through. I'm not 100% sure.
Didn't they lose somebody important?
Yeah, you 1, 2, 3, 4. A few people.
Did is Tony La Russa their new manager? Who they dig up?
Hopefully not a guy getting DUIs and just saying, "Hey, I won a World Series. I don't know what you're doing." Anywho, enough about them. So the Brewers, I think this is going to be a really interesting season to compare them this year versus last year, and maybe see what the Craig Council effect could be or could look like without them having him. They have some additions. They got Jacob Junis. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he's a starter. He had his best season ever last year. He's got about 6 years in the bigs. They grabbed DL Hall, another starter. He's projected to be the number 2 right behind Peralta. They grabbed Colin Rea, which we may know, old Cubs prospect for a while. Seems to be rebounding well, though. This is another one of those. How much do you take spring training numbers to mean actual carryover into the season? Hard to tell. And then they got Rhys Hoskins playing first base. He's going to be a big deal hitter for them this year, as long as he hits. I don't know if those seem to be kind of the main additions. They had a lot of subtractions this offseason. Lost Council to us, thank goodness. They lost Woodruff. They lost Burns. Love seeing those names go bye-bye.
Love it.
That's just too bad. Just feel terrible for them. Something that's usually a strength for them has been their starting pitching. There's a lot more question marks there this year.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's always been a strength for them has been their relief pitching. They always seem to be able to put together a bullpen. Though right now it looks like they have a lot of guys who are projected to either regress a little bit or a lot of guys last year way overdid or outperformed their projections. So hard to say whether their bullpen will be that good. And they lost Devin Williams for about 3 months or so, which I didn't look at our schedule. Hopefully we play them a bunch during that time. I don't remember if we do or not, but let's go get those wins. They have a lot of youth. That's kind of the big question mark. Go ahead.
Yeah.
When Freddie Peralta has always pitched against the Cubs pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you paired him with Corbin Burns and Woodruff and kind of had him, and then I think they had Eric Lauer and Adrian Hauser. It was kind of I think that was their starting 5 last year. And it seemed, even though those final 3, Lauer, Hauser, and Peralta always still gave the Cubs fits. Those 3 dudes are still with the Brewers, I believe. And you have Wade Miley, who's a pretty good vet in that rotation. He is pretty injury prone. They do have Colin Rea that wasn't a Cub. He killed it at Iowa for a number of years. So I'll be interested to see how their staff holds up, because the Brewers have always been one where they haven't outscored a lot of opponents.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you look at, they got Rhys Hoskins and he might hit some bombs, but he basically, I feel like the Brewers have just funneled in different first basemen every year for like the last like 5 seasons. And every single guy that they get has usually 20, 30 home runs and is a pretty good bat. So you're just basically replacing that with Rhys Hoskins. I don't see where they're going to get a lot of runs in that lineup. So it's really going to come down to pitching again for them. And I don't think they have it. And so,
Right.
Well, and Woodruff's hurt. He's not even expected to pitch in 2024, is he?
Yeah.
Nope. No, he's not. Nope.
Yeah, Everett chimed in there. Woodruff injured. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the staff isn't there, and Mitch, like you said, they're not blowing teams out of the water by multiple runs at any given time. So it's like, Kevin, to your point, the council effect. Like, did he really kill you on the margins? And
right.
you know?
Was he able to kind of play that chess game with the pitching matchups in just a way that squeaks them another 4 or 5 wins? I'm not sure. They do have that weird thing in the offseason they did. They signed that Jackson, I'm going to say his last name wrong, Curio, for an 8-year extension. But then unfortunately I drove down into Brewers fandom today on the internets and was trying to find out, is he going to break with the big league club? Is he going to be at AAA to start the year? Kind of seems weird that you give a big extension to a guy who may not start out on your roster. Seems a little weird, but hey, they're the D-gens from Upcountry for a reason, you know?
You don't give a guy that big of a contract and not have him make like what else? What do they have to lose? Like they're not projected to make the playoffs, so just throw him out there. Like, I mean, I don't want him to be out there because I think he's gonna hit.
I think he's gonna be legit. Like,
and so
totally.
Well, there's the D-gens. Let's move to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Boo.
Boo. Yeah, I love it. Boo.
They suck.
They suck. Well, I mean, I appreciate them giving my grandfather and my uncle spots on their team along with the rest of the geriatric ward. It was really nice of them to consider, my family as they did that. My uncle is in his 60s at this point, so he fits right in. I can't give them a lot of attention because it seems like when we give this team attention, they kill us. Most notably, a certain catcher who we wanted to give a ton of attention, and then he just had the best bright shining moments against us. So
his only shining moments of the season were versus the Cubs.
Yeah, and it's like, what the heck? I have. It's not a reach. I think maybe one of their biggest impact players probably this year it's probably Mason Wynn. It's not hard to reach for it. It just makes the most sense. If he doesn't start the year on the big league club, Victor Scott, I think probably ends up being a pretty big call up for them as well at some point. But unfortunately, I have this just sick feeling that the ghost of Crawford is going to come out and just paddle us into oblivion every time we play the Cardinals. Like we were talking leading up to the show, Crawford's going to be horrible against literally everybody else. And somehow every home run will just be against us. And like Everett said, there's not much else to say. St. Louis is boring.
They call it the gateway to the West. Most people kept going.
They did keep going.
Stayed.
They keep going. Yeah, they kept going. You're right. They saw the arc and they were like, "Oh, just go through it." Like,
Gandhi.
That's it.
I mean, you don't stop at the doorway; you go through the doorway. I mean,
right. Yeah, I'm not sleeping at my gateway outside of my house. I walk through it to get in my door. Yeah, and I just don't care about them enough. So I hope they have a horrible season, and I hope their fans are miserable all year long. Sorry, St. Louis.
The tough thing is, like, you look at this team on paper.
I'm scared of them a little bit.
Like Sonny Gray, like that's a top 3 pitcher in the league. Like he's a dude. You have Michaelis, who when good is very good. Lance Lynn, like he's not the Lance Lynn of old.
No,
he's gained about 80, 90 pounds. He can still throw gas, but he's kind of injury prone. You have Kyle Gibson. He's been pretty good. Like he's found some seasons where he's been good.
He gave us fits last year.
Like that's a pretty good rotation right there. Now they're old. Will they like ever make it where they're all pitching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the rotation? I don't know. They might make it like 3 times through, and then they'll never see all 5 of them in the rotation together again. I don't know. But then you look at their lineup, like they still have Arenado.
Yep.
They still have Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt, you thought age caught up to him. He's still hitting dingers. Like,
yeah,
they have who's that Walker? What's his name?
Yeah, I mean, they still have Tommy Edman. Gosh, isn't Rivas playing for the Cardinals now? Like,
yep. Well, they have Lars Newbar, but I think he's injured right now for a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like they could put it together.
I hope
there's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of question marks, even with. But you could tell they definitely went old. I think to buy them a little bit of time for their young guys to start coming up. I have no idea what their farm system looks like when it comes to pitching, but they cannot hold on with this for very much longer. I don't really understand the Sonny Gray because, I mean, I don't understand the signing, but
it's not a team as it's built right now that I think leads to a really long, healthy season for some of these players. Like you said, lots of question marks just in terms of age. Like on paper and by name alone, it looks mildly scary. But if you just take the sample size from, where some of these players were and how they performed just last year alone, it becomes a little less scary. In terms of what they have, I'm drawing a blank on his last name. They have a pitcher. He's a top 75 prospect in MLB, Tink Hence. I think that's his last name. And he's their number 2 prospect. So, you could probably assume that he's coming up at some point. Like you said, the rotation they're clocking years. They're leveled up.
Tink Hence.
Tink Hence. I was right.
Yeah, he's projected to be up in the big leagues this year.
I really thought Mitch had a stuttering problem there for a second.
Lars Nootbaar, Tink Hence. Do what you will with that information.
Right.
But, to me, they're the most threatening to the Cubs, though, just because, like, it just seems like that would be how it shakes out to me, but I hope I'm wrong. So,
well, if Scott's prediction is right, he's going to finish second.
Yeah, Matt Carpenter's their DH.
Yeah, he's still playing.
What?
Yeah, Matt Carpenter. Dude, he raked for a year with the Yankees, so I don't know. Not so much last year with the Padres, but
Scott out here dropping predictions.
Let's jump to the Cincinnati Reds. Jeffrey, it's you.
Oh boy.
Dick ballers.
The team from across the Ohio River. Let's see. The best thing in Cincinnati is probably the Skyline Chili. The zoo was okay that they took a hit in the Gorilla the Grizzilla expedition, a couple years ago. Lost some people. All right, so this team is scary with their pitching because they got like 3 guys that are hitting the IL. Will probably start the IL on the injured reserve from their pitching staff, but they still have 5 bona fide starters as is with those guys being injured. And also, like, injuries are starting to pile up in their bullpen. They got a couple of key lefties that are probably going to start the season on the IL. As far as hitting, they're pretty solid. They got Candelario, Spencer Steer, Encarnacion Stand, Matt McLean. He's probably their best all-around player on the team. He's not their best hitter, but as far as defense and at the plate, he's their best all-around player. And don't forget, they got Ellie De La Cruz at short, who's going to be phenomenal on the bases, probably still 39 bags this year. They got, I think, one TJ Fried. Is that how you pronounce it?
Friedel.
Friedel, yeah. Rolled over on his wrist and fractured it, so he's going to start the season on the IL. So they got some holes to fill with injuries piling up there in Cincinnati.
And one of their top prospects that was supposed to be take over at third base, Marte, just tested positive for steroids. So he's got a 60 or 80 game suspension.
I think it's 60.
Hey, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Why not? What's oh, why?
I'm not sure.
It was good for baseball in the 90s.
Either. It's not like they're running heavy equipment or anything. They're just swinging bats. All right. So I'm going to project a record somewhere around the 500 range. Probably a breakout player or somebody that's probably going to have an all-around good season is probably Matt McLean. And they'll probably finish 3-4 in the Central, depending on how those injuries affect their pitching staff and how they start. So I think it was a couple years ago, didn't they start? It was like 7-22, and they ended up with a 100-loss season. So I know a lot of people think it doesn't matter how you start, it's how you finish. But if you finish or if you start that shitty, you're going to finish that shitty.
Yeah. It's a way to put it.
Love it. Short, concise, left everything out there for us to digest with our ears. Yep.
The Reds still kind of scare me though. Like out of the teams, like they got hot. They got hot the second half of the season. Ellie De La Cruz comes up and kind of sparks them. The fans got back into it. I haven't seen that many fans in that Homer Stadium in a long time. And they add Nick Martinez, Frankie Montas, Brett Suter in the bullpen. Like, they were already a decent team, a young team. And then you throw that in there, like, I don't know, like their starting rotation is pretty good. Ashcraft can be really good. Lodolo is pretty good. Hunter Green, like his fastball is hittable. It gets hit for home runs quite a bit. You can ask Michael Bush that because he took him yard a couple weeks ago in spring training. But like they still scare me a little bit when it comes to the NL Central.
Oh, we'll probably wind up splitting it. Isn't this
They're
year
in
that
Ohio?
Yeah. Isn't this the year we don't play the NL Central teams like 18 times a piece?
We don't play them as much because it's a balanced schedule. Right. Yep, this year. And then I'm wrapping up with the Pittsburgh Pirates. In 2023, the Pittsburgh Pirates had their best season in 5 years, finishing 76-86 for fourth place in the NL Central. Do you know who got fifth in the NL Central?
Cardinals?
That'd be the St. Louis
Cardinals. St. Louis Cardinals.
Hey, is Andrew McCutchen still on the Pirates?
He is. Back for one more season. I think this is his final ride. So
yeah.
So if anything, you want to kind of just cheer for him because he's a good dude. 2024 looks a little bit brighter for the Pirates, I would say. They added Aroldis Chapman, Yasmani Grandal. They have a really good pitch. They have Mitch Keller, which I'm a huge Mitch Keller fan. He is from Iowa. I've always been kind of rooting for him, and last year he kind of finally broke out. you have O'Neal Cruz. Like that dude, like is a stud. He is a better version than Ellie De La Cruz. If it wasn't for last year, the best Cruz in the NL Central is O'Neal Cruz. Easy. Because if he didn't get injured last year, you would have saw O'Neal Cruz break out and be a star. And because he got hurt, he didn't get that opportunity. So this year, you can already see it. I think, what does he have? 4 home runs? I think he's tied with David Bodie for spring training lead in home runs. The dude can hit. The dude's got a cannon for an arm at first. He's more consistent than Ellie De La Cruz. So I'm a big O'Neal Cruz fan, but you throw Aroldis Chapman in there with David Bednar in that already really good Pirates bullpen. Like that kind of scares me, because if they do get up, their bullpen is pretty strong. The thing is, I just think they're weak when it comes to back into their bullpen, and without their top, like they have a good like 4 sticks in that order, and then it drops off really, really hard. And then you got no production. When you have Yasmani Grandal as your catcher, you're not getting much hitting out of the catcher's position. So like, I don't know, like I'm not super scared of the Pirates, but they have just enough where I guarantee you when we play them, they're going to like take 2 out of 3. So that's, I like on paper what they've started to build with the Pirates. I've liked it, what they're doing. The thing that I see happening is they've got 4 or 5 guys that they've signed new. And by the trade deadline, all those guys will be gone.
Yeah, Scott down here saying Chapman is trade bait for the deadline. I could totally see that.
Guaranteed. Yep.
Chapman recently went viral for other strange reasons that we are not going to dive into. That was an interesting moment.
Maybe we should dive into that. That'd be good conversation for Jeff.
Please share.
Speaking of Jeff, I forgot that Rowdy Tellez is playing for the Pirates. You could have asked him to smuggle a ham from Virginia for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
he's a good first baseman. He's gonna hit some pops. He's gonna hit some dingers. So like,
we should get him and Dan Vogelbach at the same buffet.
That's the guy I was trying to think of earlier.
Danny Burgers, yeah.
Yeah.
Mitch, you're right. They are a little scary, but I think you hit it right on the head. Is like they got some people, and it's how many of them are gone by the time the trade deadline rolls around. And then
they did just sign Domingo Yarman from the Yankees. The thing is, like, so he had a domestic abuse charge against him. Aroldis Chapman, like, what are they trying to do there in Pittsburgh?
I don't know, but they shouldn't have them share lockers right next to each other.
I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to say this for Scott, who has brought up Trevor Bauer every
the same thing.
Episode.
He's going to be a Pirate.
I am with you. No, I don't want him to go to the Pirates, because then the Pirates will actually be pretty good. But I'm with you that I think that Trevor Bauer should get a second chance, but he is getting pushed out by the higher ups, because I think commissioner doesn't like him. But if these two have gotten signed by a team, Trevor Bauer should be on a team. I will say that, because he's a good baseball player. Would I want him on my team? If he would just go out and pitch, yes, I'd want him on my team. But all the other baggage that he brings along, it'd be tough. I can see why owners are staying away. But the Pirates are doing their thing. Maybe the Pirates will sign him. I don't know. I hear that Bauer is pitching against the Yankees here in like 2 days. And so maybe that's an audition with Garrett Cole going down. Maybe they might look to sign Trevor Bauer. Anyways, NL Central. Let's get into how do we think they stack up and what team scares us the most. So let's start with you, Ian. How do you think the NL stacks up and what team is going to be in that number 2 slot and scare us the most this season?
Scott's predictions for the top 2 for me, for the Cubs and Cardinals ring true. And I'm only saying the Cardinals number 2. Dang it, Everett.
I had to stop. Everett put Chapman just grabbing the Ross back.
Why? Oh man.
Jeff, if you haven't seen it, after the show, you gotta watch. Just type in Rolls Chapman and mom.
It's so uncomfortable. I'm going with the Cardinals in number 2, not only because they signed my grandpa, but it's a bunch of veterans that know how to play, and that to me is uncomfortable. I'm actually putting the Pirates in 3rd ahead of the Reds and the Brewers. So to me, I'm saying the Brewers are going to finish last, but I have Cubs Cardinals top 2. And hopefully the margin is much bigger than the 2-game margin that Scott is predicting, because that freaks me out. But they're the ones that bother me the most, just because they bother me.
They have the most star power that could put something together. Like
right.
when you have Goldschmidt and you have Nolan Arenado, like those
right.
are 2 all-stars every single year. No other team in the Central has that besides the Cubs have Dansby and have Ian Happ that have been all-stars multiple times. Nobody else has that in the NL Central. So I can see that.
Yep.
Kevin, what about you?
I'm pretty similar to Ian here. For some reason, the Cardinals, they always pull out the voodoo. They always have something that's gonna come up out of the South, and they're gonna have the right young players hit. They'll have the right older players that for some reason have, arms made of Jello and they can throw forever. Like I don't know. It's weird. I kind of do though like the Pirates. I wonder if it won't end up being kind of a weird, like the Cubs win it. I like 87. But then the next 2 are pretty close to each other, like an 82 win Cardinals and an 83 or an 81 win Pirates or something pretty close together. Kind of, if you were a Pirates fan, kind of the worst case scenario where that would be for them to be just sitting just above 500 and then wait too long to sell off, or like they'd keep their pieces a little longer than you want to and then still not make the playoffs. But I'm not a Pirates fan, so that's fine with me if they do that. I don't know. I see the Brewers regressing horribly this year, and that's kind of my hope for them. I see they're going to lose their skipper, then they're going to lose their mojo, and then all the young kids are going to struggle. That's my hope.
Jeffrey, how do you think the NL Central is going to lay out, and then who's scaring you the most?
I think it's going to go Brewers, Pirates, Cardinals, or Reds, Cardinals, and then the Cubbies at the top. I don't know. I just think the Reds should get streaky good. I do agree with Kevin, and the Brewers are going to regress a ton. I mean, they lost a lot. I just don't. I imagine at some point St. Louis is going to be kind of unbelievably good for what they have. Aging players.
I could see them going through a stretch like a month where they're like super hot, like
right.
The month of like June. Probably it'll be early. It'll be May. They'll have a good May stretch because that's when they'll probably be most healthy. And then the dog days of summer will hit, and then you'll have some injuries, and then they'll probably slide off. That's why for me, the Reds scare me the most because they're the youngest. They have some up and comers. I think, I don't know, just the way they ended the season last year, I think it pushed me to like, yeah, they're a team to watch. I just think that hopefully they get what's coming to them for the way they treated Joey Votto. And that's some injury. I mean, I'm not wishing an injury on anybody, but they get the injury bug and slide off and just let the Cubs coast into a playoff spot. So, but yeah, obviously the Cubs, I would have Cubs, Reds, Pirates, Cardinals, Brewers. Because I could see the Cardinals, same thing, injuries happen and them sliding off. And then I could see the Cardinals being a seller at the deadline and try to trade Nolan Arenado and Goldschmidt for young pitching and young talent.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're older. I mean, I could see that happening. And they kind of just switch over to going with Wynn at shortstop. They might try to flip Brandon Crawford. I don't know how you would, but nobody wants Brandon Crawford. Him just retiring. I don't know. But I could see that happening. And then the Brewers, they just don't have enough. So that's how I see the NL Central laying out.
Yeah, we all picked Brewers to be the basement dwellers.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
From first to last.
The hell with them. From the penthouse to the shit house.
Yep.
I like it.
Awesome. So next week we will be doing our pick'em, and it will be doing that on Wednesday night. So next Monday we're not doing an episode, and we'll do it the night before opening day. So Wednesday night we'll do a pick'em. So be looking for that. We're excited. So we'll get all of our picks on most dingers, who we think's going to get most ejections, who's going to lay down the most bunts this season, how many times Craig Counsell will get ejected. I don't know. I'm just making up things. But we may do those. I don't know, but we'll do our prediction episode, and then we'll predict our win-loss and see who gets closest and gets bragging rights at the end of the year. And of course, this year we will be on doing, like we always do on Twitter, our dinger picks. And we're trying to work up something with Cubs on Tap, where we have a little friendly competition with them. I am the reigning champ when it comes to dinger picks. So there's that.
So you pick last.
I'll probably pick last the first day. And then from there on, I'll just take over. But yeah, so look for that. We're excited that the season is fast approaching. It'll be really fun when we get to say that opening day is a week away, and then opening day is tomorrow, and then today is opening day. Because I will shout it from the rooftops that today's opening day. All right, that does it for episode 146 of the Dingers podcast. Thanks for listening. Oh, Kevin, I was going to ask you, did you listen to our whole episode last week?
No, it's on my podcatcher. I'm a little behind because we traveled with the kids, so I'm a little behind on my podcasts.
So last week we ended the show
with the car.
Right, and I can't put you on the radio in the car, Jeffrey, with my kids in the car.
It's fine.
But my question at the end of the episode was, is it flick off or flip off?
Oh, it's flip off.
Flip you off?
Yeah, it's flip you off. I don't even know why this is a conversation. What I'm gonna flick like flick? No, it's a flip up.
That was just my.
Now you have to listen.
Oh, great. Okay,
that was my question. All right, so that does it for episode 146 of the Dingers podcast. Go Cubs!
It's a cake episode in 4 episodes.